When you look up at a starry night sky, it looks like, just a random scattering of light.
Right? Until someone points out the shape of a hunter or a bear.
Exactly. And today we are looking at the book Teardrops on My Guitar, Schopenhauer meets Taylor Swift. And the core question is, are the nearly 200 parallels to Arthur Schopenhauer's deeply pessimistic philosophy a deliberate constellation Swift drew for us as a massive Easter egg?
Or, on the flip side, are we just aggressively pattern-matching teenage heartbreak?
Right, so I take the position that these parallels are intentional, they are hidden messages designed by a covert philosophical architect.
And I argue that they are just an inevitable, emergent property of human desire. Raw heartbreak naturally mirrors classic metaphysics without needing, secret academic blueprints.
Well, Swift actually admitted to the Washington Post that at age 15, she, quote, decided to encode her lyrics with hidden messages.
Okay, sure, but encoding boyfriends' names is a little different from encoding 19th century German philosophy.
I mean, true, but there are just too many parallels here to write this off as a coincidence. Teardrops on My Guitar doesn't just describe a sad teenager. It perfectly executes Schopenhauer's highly specific remedy for human suffering.
Wait, you are seriously saying a teenager actively plotted to cure existential suffering using a pop song?
I am saying she did it. Look, Schopenhauer built his framework around the idea that we desire what we lack.
Right, which is just the biological trap of having a crush. A sharply written song about longing will naturally recreate those concepts.
But look at how she does it. Schopenhauer says the only way to briefly suspend the suffering of the will, this insatiable, blind force driving us, is to convert unrequited desire into an aesthetic, musical object.
Which, as the character Gaskton Blunder notes in the text, is just because happy people do not write songs, they go out to dinner.
Ha, yeah, but how does Swift actually execute this? She takes the messy, unbearable reality of a guy ignoring her and traps it inside a meticulously structured 3-minute pop melody.
Okay, yes, it is controlled.
Exactly. The pain does not go away, but for 3 minutes, it is controlled and beautiful.
Sure, it is controlled, but that does not mean she read German pessimism to figure out how to do it.
Why not?
Because the structural asymmetry of desire is universal. The subject of the song, Drew, not looking at her, isn't some deliberate philosophical puzzle Swift programmed. It is simply the unvarnished reality of how attachment works.
But are you only saying it is an inevitable byproduct because it is a pop song?
I am not sure I follow.
Well, if this were a 19th century poem, we would call the author a genius. The book actually brings in sociologist Pierre Bourdieu on this exact point.
Ah, right. The social sorting argument.
Yes, dismissing the possibility of Swift's intentionality feels like an act of social sorting. By assuming pop music lacks the credentials for deliberate philosophy, aren't we just acting like cultural snobs?
Oh, come on. I am not dismissing her genius at all.
Mistaking a popular playlist for a lack of profundity, basically.
No, I am saying the mechanics of the song work flawlessly without requiring her to be an encyclopedic scholar. The text explicitly asks if we are simply reading all too well.
Nice pun from the author there.
Right? But the author even calls this project a fragile bridge where nothing is proven. It is a creative intellectual experiment to disrupt algorithmic conformity, not the unmasking of a factual conspiracy.
But the specific dynamics at play are undeniably Schopenhauerian. Take Professor Malik Merriwell's concept in the book.
Oh boy, here we go.
He argues the song demonstrates the ontological dynamics of an Escherian recursive boomerang.
Okay, hold on. We have to unpack that. You cannot just drop Escherian recursive boomerang and pretend that proves she is secretly a philosopher.
Fair enough. Think of an Escher staircase, those optical illusions that just loop back on themselves endlessly.
Right, the ones where you are always climbing but never actually get anywhere.
Exactly. Because Swift never actually gets the guy in the song. The narrative acts as an endless loop of longing. The desire is never satisfied.
So the tension is never resolved.
Yes, and the art sustains itself forever. That specific dynamic, converting unsatisfied desire into a self-sustaining loop, is pure Schopenhauer. The less predictable the reward, the stronger the attachment.
It is a brilliant song, yes. But let us not crown a teenager a covert metaphysician just because she vividly described the mechanics of a crush.
But once you catch a glimpse of this intentional architecture, you really cannot ignore it.
I will admit, Schopenhauer did point out that to want is always to lose. A 15-year-old experiencing that trap firsthand is going to express it perfectly, just by telling the truth.
Even if she stumbled into it by merely telling the truth, the alignment is staggering. Analyzing a pop song through this lens is bold, but you will honestly never listen to this song the same way again.
I agree, it completely changes how you hear the song. There is immense value in analyzing pop culture through this rigorous lens.
Absolutely.
But the profundity lies in the human condition itself, not necessarily a secret Easter egg hidden in the liner notes.
Well, the tension definitely remains. Is Taylor Swift a covert philosophical architect, purposely placing massive puzzles in her work?
Or is raw heartbreak just inherently metaphysical by nature?
We leave it to you to decide if these patterns are deliberate design or just the inevitable echoes of what it means to be human.
Right. So next time you look up at those stars, ask yourself, are you just finding shapes in the chaos, or did someone draw the constellation just for you to find?